Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you guys a winter floral gel polish design. I thought it would be a good opportunity to share some techniques for easy nail art that work well in gel polish sets. So I hope you all enjoy watching. To begin with, I'm going to use the Kiki London rubber base coat and I'm working on top of some press-on nail tips. Now I've prepped these tips by buffing off the shine, so very similar to how you would prep your own nails. I've done the same here just to make sure that the gel polish adheres to them nicely. I'm then going to apply a thin layer of the base coat. I'm not going to talk too in depth about this base coat because in the previous video I shared my thoughts on it and I don't want to keep repeating myself and make it a little bit boring for you guys, but I did explain why this is my preferred base coat. I'm going to apply this to all 5 of the nails, and the rubber base coat is slightly thicker, but as you can see here it levels out absolutely beautifully to quite a thin layer. I've then popped them in my Kiki London LED lamp to cure for a full 30 seconds. Whilst those bases are curing, I'm going to show you guys the 2 colours that I'm using as the bases today. So first up, I'm using a charcoal grey. Now charcoal grey is a really rich dark grey. It's absolutely beautiful. And secondly, I'm going to be using a purple dusk. Again, this has such a gorgeous creamy and dreamy tone to it. So I'm going to be applying a purple dusk to the little finger, the ring finger and the middle finger. So I'm starting off by a nice thin layer of colour. With my first coat I like to keep it nice and thin. Don't worry about the pigmentation or the coverage because you will get that with your second coat. However, I do have to say the Kiki London polishes, they have such great pigmentation that one coat you can still see that it's very good coverage, but still just keep it nice and thin. When working with gel polish, it's always preferable to work in thin layers. I do like to brush over the nail a few times, especially when I'm working on longer nails like this, just to make sure that that color has applied nice and smoothly. It is a little bit easier if you're working on shorter nails. And I did take the tip off there just to check that I'd got my sidewalls nicely, because these particular tips are quite pinched, so it's very easy to miss the sidewalls. The same goes for if you're working over the top of an acrylic or gel enhancement. You do really need to make sure that if there's an apex and curve to the nail, you're getting right around that curve and right down onto the sidewalls. Then I'm going to come in with charcoal grey. Now, as I said, this has got that gorgeous, dark, dreamy tone to it, and I absolutely love it. I felt as though it paired absolutely beautifully with purple dusk, and it just really fits the current winter season. I really feel as though the grey nights are dragging on a lot now. So again, I'm applying a nice thin coat of this. With darker colours especially, you need to make sure your colours are kept nice and thin, because if you apply them too thickly, they might not cure correctly, or you might find that they wrinkle in your lamp. So just make sure that you're applying that nice and thin, even if you do have to go over the nail a little bit to spread it out. That's our first coat of colour now applied. I'm then going to pop these in my LED lamp to cure for 30 seconds. If you're working with a UV lamp, I recommend curing for around 1 to 2 minutes, depending on the lamp you are using. If you are looking for a lamp, I highly recommend the one I have pictured. It's the Kiki London Deluxe LED lamp, and it cures everything absolutely amazingly. I will try and do a video soon, maybe like an unboxing sort of style video, and showing you guys the features that the lamp has, because it's my second lamp from Kiki London. I upgraded to this one and I'm absolutely loving it. So here you can see I'm coming in and applying that second coat of colour. Now, like I said, the Kiki London polishes have such good pigmentation that you're able to work with thin coats. So when I'm coming in and applying my second coat, I'm applying that pretty much the same thickness as the first coat, so quite thin, because you just don't need to add any unnecessary bulk to the nails. And that's why these gel polishes are really good for nail art and things like that as well, because you can work in thin layers and create designs without ending up with thick, bulky looking nails. When you are applying this on yourself, always be careful around your cuticles and sidewall areas. If you do find that you get any gel on your cuticles, just make sure to wipe it off with some alcohol before curing. However, it is always nice to try and avoid getting it on the skin. And here are what those colours look like now the second coat is applied. The word dreamy just sums these up perfectly. I'm loving the colours in the winter collection. Again, I've popped them in to cure for 30 seconds. Now that they have cured, we're ready to start on some of the nail art. So I'm going to take the ring finger and the pointer finger because these two designs are going to be, or these two nails, sorry, are going to be very similar designs. On these two nails, I'm going to be applying some water decals. I have already removed the tacky layer from my Kiki London gel polish. Unfortunately, I couldn't include it in the video because it was really out of focus. I'm not sure what was going on with my camera today, but I basically took one of the Kiki London alcohol wipes and just wiped over it to make sure that all of the tacky inhibition layer from the gel polish was removed. That's because I personally find the water decals apply a lot easier when you haven't got that tacky layer there, but that could be down to personal preference, so do whatever you feel works best for you. But if you are struggling with water decals on gel polish, I would just recommend trying to remove that tacky layer and seeing if you find that a little bit easier. So these water decals, I've basically cut them off the sheet, soaked them in some room temperature water for around 10-20 seconds, and then I've used some tweezers to pull them off the backing paper and place them down on the nail. I'm then just using my fingers to press that decal into place and get it positioned where I want it on the nail. I only want it to cover roughly the bottom end of the nail, so just the tip area. And I'm then just using my fingers to pull it taut and cut off the excess with some scissors. Now, don't worry if you can't cut off all of the excess with your scissors. I will come back in a little while and show you how I fully remove the excess. So I'm going to go through it again exactly the same on this nail. I've soaked my water decal for around 10-20 seconds. And then here, when I've placed it down on the nail, because I want these two nails to match, I'm just making sure to line that up so it's roughly, you know, the same way, the same length down the nail. We want it to look as symmetrical to the previous nail as possible, so that if it was being worn on a set of nails, it would all just flow nicely. I've pulled that taunt just to make sure I've got all of the creases out, and then I'm just using my scissors to cut as close to the nail as possible. Now, when you're working with water decals or anything really on gel polish or any sort of nail enhancement, you really need to make sure that if you're encapsulating it, that there's not anything overhanging from the nail. Now, it can be really tricky to cut water decals to as close as the nail as possible, so that's why I like to come in with my buffer, but I do allow them to dry before doing that. So I'm going to finish off the design and then I will show you that step a little bit further along in the video. So we're going to be applying some striping tape to finish off the design on these nails. I just felt as though it needed something to go from the gel polish colour to the water decal. So I'm taking some silver striping tape. Now, I always like to cut this off slightly longer than what I need it. This way you've just got something to hold on to and it helps you get it into position. So as you can see, I've got probably a little bit more excess than is needed. You don't need to use that much because it is a little bit wasteful. And once again, exactly the same as with the water decals, I'm making sure to cut this as close as possible. Just really making sure it's pressed down. And little things like striping tape and water decals, they're a really easy way to add in some nail art to your gel polish sets, but they're really salon friendly because they're quick and easy to do once you know how. So again, I'm lining that up just to make sure it's in line with the previous nail, making sure to really press it down so it makes good contact with your layer of gel polish. And I did give my water decals a few minutes to fully dry and set in place before I come in with my buffer. So I'm then taking my Kiki London buffer and I'm buffing the undersides of the nail. And I'm kind of angling my buffer, so that ever so slightly goes around the nail tip, and this, as you can see, it just pulls off all of that excess water decal without damaging the part of the decal that you've applied to the nail. Now, the reason I angle my buffer slightly in, this way it will remove an ever so slight amount of the water decal from the free edge, and this way your top coat can fully encapsulate over it and you won't have to worry about any of your water decals peeling off or breaking down throughout the wear of the set. And I will top coat those nails at the end, but we're going to now move on and work on the thumb and little finger. On these two nails, I'm going to be working with some of the Silver Shrine. This is another gorgeous colour from the winter collection. I love this one. It's one of my favourite Kiki London gel polishes. It's got a gorgeous silver base, but then it has this pink slash purple colour shift to it. It's like a shimmer that runs through it. It's really hard to explain, but it's absolutely beautiful. So I've popped a small amount of that gel polish down onto a nail art palette, and then I'm just taking a fine nail art brush and I'm really running it into that gel polish just to make sure that the colour is loaded through my bristles. And then I'm just going to rub some of the excess off so that I've not got too much on my brush. And I'm basically doing a really simple cutout colour block design. So I'm running my brush straight across from one side of the nail up towards the other side. And I want this to be like a swoosh of colour that just runs across the tip of the nail, basically from one side to the other. Just because I felt as though the silver shrine worked beautifully against the grey and the pink, and I thought it would be a good time to show you guys how you can add two colours on to one nail and keep it nice and simple. I know that freehand nail art can be quite tricky to master, so I just thought I would share something simple with you all. I'm not amazing at freehand nail art myself, but practicing things like these kind of designs really just helps you learn how to control your brush. So once I've finished off that line with the fine nail art brush, I'm just coming back in with my Kiki London brush and applying the rest of the colour to the tip of the nail. And then I'm just neatening that up slightly with the fine nail art brush again, just to get that line as crisp and as neat as possible. It is a little harder, I find, to do freehand nail art on the tips rather than a finger because you don't have anything to support your own hand on, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do exactly the same on the purple Dusk nail, but I want the colour block half to go off in the opposite direction. And then I'm just going to make this section match up with the previous nail. So I'm coming in and doing exactly the same as before. I'm trying to let my brush do a lot of the work when it comes to doing the line. So I'm letting those bristles fan out to help create a crisp line. It's definitely something that just takes some practice. I'm certainly far from perfect myself. As you can see here, I just felt as though I wanted that to be a bit crisper, so I just come over the line once again. Then I'm going to take my bottle brush and just fill in the section. You can do it with your nail art brush if you wanted to, but it'd probably be a bit time consuming because it's a larger area. Then I compared the two nails next to each other and just felt as though on the grey nail, the silver shrine colour block comes slightly further up. So I'm just coming in with some more gel polish and making the line slightly thicker. Again, I'm moving the nail as well as moving the brush. So this is the same when you're doing it on yourself or a client. Sometimes it's easier to move their nail rather than move the brush. So just try and play around and find what works best for you. And one of the things that I love the most about working with gel polish compared to, say, regular polish or acrylic when it comes to nail art is that the product's not going to set until you pop it into cure. So if you do make any mistakes or if you want to come over lines again or neaten them up, you're able to play around with it as much as you want until you pop it into cure. Now that I am happy with those two sections, I'm curing them again for 30 seconds. And I'm then going to come in and just go over these with a second coat. Because I'd come in and out with nail art brushes, it just looked a little bit uneven. So I'm just popping a really thin second coat of colour just so it really pops against the grey and the purple. And I'm applying that exactly the same as before, just really carefully going along that line and then coming in with my bottle brush. Once again, I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds, and then that's these two nails in the set finished. They will look a lot more even once I've applied the top coat, so you won't see the bump of the line as much once the top coat has been applied. So we have one more nail to work on in our set. Now this is the middle nail, and as you remember, we've applied 2 coats of purple dust to it. I'm then going to come in with my Kiki London No Wipe top coat, and on this now we're going to be doing some sugaring with glitter. So it's really important when you're doing sugaring that you use a no wipe top coat. It won't work as well with a top coat that has a tacky layer, and that's because you aren't able to wipe away that tacky layer once you've sprinkled on your glitter. So just make sure to to use a no wipe top coat. I'm then just going to apply a nice even layer of this to all of the nail, making sure to get right around those side walls. You don't want to miss any areas because then your glitter won't have anything to set into. And another thing I'm just going to say about sugaring, I always find it good to match your glitter as best as you can to a colour that's underneath. This way, if any does flake off towards the end of wearing a set, so say 2-3 weeks in, you've got a bit of colour under there so it's not as noticeable. Now I've left that top coat uncured, and then I'm using my Kiki London cuticle pusher just to sprinkle on some fine glitter. Sugaring works best with either a fine or a super fine glitter. You'll just find that it sets a lot better in the gel rather than a chunky glitter. And I'm then just tapping off the excess. And I'm just going to run my finger down the side walls of the nail just to make sure there's none of that glitter overhanging, and then I'll pop this in to cure for a full 30 seconds. Now our glitter has fully set in place, so I'm going to take a soft dusty brush and just dust off any excess. And just look how gorgeous this looks. Sugaring is one of my favourite things to include in a gel polish set because it's so quick and easy to do. I'm then going to come back in with that Kiki London no wipe top coat, and I'm going to use this on the remaining 4 nails. I'm not going to be top coating over the sugaring nail because that's not the effect we're going for. There are lots of other glitter techniques you can use with gel polish where you burnish the glitter in and then top coat it, but for sugaring you want that raw glitter effect. So coming in on top of the remaining 4 nails, I'm just going to apply a nice even layer of this top coat, really working it over that striping tape and water decal. If you was doing this set on yourself or a client, on the nails that have got the water decals, I would highly recommend either doing 2 coats or using the Kiki London rubber top coat, just because the rubber top coat is slightly thicker, so it works a little bit better at encapsulating decals and striping tape. But I opted to use the no wipe today because I haven't really used it too much in videos, and it is also up there with one of my favourite top coats because the shine on it is just incredible. Once I've applied a thin layer of this to all of the nails, I will then pop them into cure. And that, guys, is the end of the design. Don't forget, again, if you were doing this set on yourself or a client, this is when you would come in and apply your Kiki London cuticle oils to replenish all your cuticles. Now that they have cured, this is what the finished result looks like. I thought they looked so pretty, especially for a beginner friendly set of nails. They look like they took a lot more effort to do than what they actually did. So I hope you all enjoyed watching. If you did, then please give the video a thumbs up or leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, and I will then see you all again next Friday. Once again, thank you for watching. Bye bye.